The following podcast, I Design Lab, is an SW Group production in association with the Scott Woolley Entertainment Company and TW Interiors. This is I Design Lab, a podcast where creativity and curiosity meet style and design. Curators of interiors, furnishings, and lifestyles. Hosted by Tiffany Woolley, an interior designer and a style enthusiast, along with her serial entrepreneur husband, Scott. I Design Lab is your ultimate interior design podcast, where we explore the rich and vibrant world of design and its constant evolution in style and trends. I Design Lab provides industry insight, discussing the latest trends, styles, and everything in between to better help you style your life through advice from trendsetters, designers, influencers, fabricators, and manufacturers, as well as personal stories that inspire, motivate, and excite. So whether you're listening to I Design Lab in your car or in a cozy nook in your home, grab a coffee or a Chardonnay and join us on this elevated, informative, and lively journey into the world of all things design. Our guest today is no stranger to design. Her name is Debbie Miller, and she has been helping thousands of people with their decorative hardware needs since 1982, when she joined her mother at Miller's. Miller's at the time was just a small store in Plantation, Florida, and was a destination for everyone moving down to Broward County. Miller soon expanded from cabinet hardware to door hardware and plumbing in 1997, and she became the president of Miller's. By 2001, she opened a 10,000 square foot location near the Design Center in Dania Beach, Florida. All the while, she was very active with NKBA, serving as a board member in their decorative hardware chapter. Debbie would realize that the industry needed its own trade association separate from the NKBA, so she became one of the founding members of the Decorative Plumbing and Hardware Association, known as DPHA. Debbie has been a guest speaker at many industry events, such as the National Kitchen and Bath Show. By 2008, Debbie would bring on a new partner and move Miller's to Boca Raton, renaming it Miller's Elegant Hardware, where it operates today as one of the leading decorative hardware companies in South Florida. At home, Debbie has surrounded herself with an amazing husband, 2 phenomenal sons, and a beautiful daughter-in-law. Debbie, welcome to the I Design Lab.
Debbie, welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. This is fun.
It is fun. We're all doing this remotely, so we're all safe and social distancing. And we want to introduce Debbie and Miller's Elegant Hardware.
It's glad to be here. It's really an honor. Thank you so much.
So tell us a little about Miller's, so our listeners have a little bit of a better understanding of what Miller's Elegant Hardware is.
Well, it was a cool start. My dad was a custom furniture manufacturer in the early 70s, and he needed cabinet hardware, and there were very few resources in Florida at the time. So he was ordering from a company in New York, and he received a package, and there was a sticker on the bag, and he called the 800 number on the sticker, which was a small company in Pennsylvania, and he asked them how he could buy hardware direct. And they said, that's not how distribution works. If you want to purchase hardware, you need a hardware store. And he turned to my mother and said, Roberta, you're opening up a hardware store. And that's how Miller's got started.
So when they opened it up, what were they pretty much selling? What type of items?
So originally when they opened up, they specifically opened up as cabinet hardware. There was only a limited amount of cabinet hardware companies that they could buy from. And a couple of them, truly less than half a dozen. And along with half a dozen, 3 of them came with accompanying door hardware. Baldwin was one of the original ones.
So for the listeners who don't necessarily know exactly what hardware means, we're talking about the knobs and the pulls that
We're talking about cabinet hardware, the things that you open your doors and your drawers with. That was the original concept to accompany my father's furniture, was to be able to offer a large offering of decorative hardware to his customers for high-end products, for high-end furniture. Yes.
Right, but then you eventually expanded, because I know just what Tiffany and TW Interiors uses Miller's Elegant Hardware for is a lot more than just cabinet hardware.
Yeah, the expansion was really quite natural. along with cabinet hardware, several of these manufacturers already were carrying door hardware. And then how the plumbing really did come in is there were, again, probably less than 6 plumbing companies that were starting to come into play within the country. And they started soliciting the companies that were out there that were selling cabinet hardware and door hardware because they knew that that would be a perfect fit. So we were the original showrooms for companies like Jado and Artistic Brass and Auburn Brass, which unfortunately are no longer in business.
Really?
The Broadway
Jado's
collection.
not either?
Actually, Jado, just a quick interesting fact, the way Jado got started in the U.S. is they had a gentleman by the name of Stefan who was charged by the leadership in Jado in Germany to come to America and get on a bus. And he had in his briefcase cabinet hardware. And they were already producing plumbing in Germany, but the thought was to get the name of Jado out into the showrooms. So he literally got on a bus and he went from East Coast to West Coast and stopped in all of the showrooms that were listed with NKBA and opened up the doors for Jado. So that's how we started with Jado, was with cabinet knobs. And then they were able, within a matter of months, to launch some of their plumbing products because the plumbing had to become U.S. approved. So that's a process between Europe and the U.S. And then Jado came in. Currently, Jado is no longer distributed within the United States. Wow. Several of the molds were purchased by American Standard, and a different company has evolved since then. Yes.
And that's like a little side note of why I wanted to start this podcast, is because me listening to them so frequently now, I just feel like everybody's story is so exciting, and there's so many layers and levels to the ultimate curation of
it's so cool.
What I do.
It's so cool to have, yeah, it is. And it's so cool to actually know that all of this started with just people.
Right.
You know, if you're familiar with the company Roll.
Yes, of course.
Roll. Okay, so how Roll got started is Ken Roll.
So for people who are listening who don't
know Roll.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Like me. So what is Roll?
Roll is actually, as people look at Roll, they look at it as to be a manufacturer, but it's a brand of companies that they brought into the U.S. and they distributed under the name of Roll, R-O-H-L. Ken Roll was the creator of Roll Plumbing, and that's what it is. However, Roll actually was made up of several small companies throughout Europe that prided themselves on their family names.
Wow.
So they wanted to come into distribution in our country, and Ken Roll took them in as an umbrella and said, Perrin and Rowe, why don't you come in under the Roll name? And you know, he grabbed all of these very small companies and grouped them together as a grouping called Roll.
And brought them here.
He did, but prior to him doing that, Ken Roll brought the pull-out kitchen faucet here in the United States. Only person that ever did that. And he actually was representing a Swiss company called KWC that he found in a trip to Europe. So he found this company. He thought it was the greatest thing since sliced bread. And he brought it to the United States and said to everybody that had showrooms that you know he was able to look up through NKBA.
So he was an innovator.
You've never seen. He was amazing, and he still is. He still is such a mentor to so many of us because he just loves this industry.
What a wild story, because it's true, because as I've dove into some renovation work and come along like older kitchens and things, there is no pull-out faucets.
Yes.
Like such a simple thing that we all take for granted, I guess. Has such a historical.
Yeah,
historical mark.
I'm historical.
I love that.
Yeah.
So what other categories of items can we shop for at Miller's?
Well, at Miller's, we carry everything from decorative plumbing, which would be in bathroom fixtures. It would be your faucets and your tub fillers and all of your wonderful shower systems. It would be your steams, all the different types of steam showers. And of lately, it would be all of the electronic devices that now go into all of the bathrooms, such as all the Bluetooth technology.
Which is wild.
It would also be everything from all of the medicine cabinets and electric mirrors that are out there, which are just phenomenal because they too all have the Bluetooth technology. We even carry mirrors now that have complete computer
Filters?
systems that are built in.
Do they
Pardon
have
me?
them with filters yet or no?
No, they don't have them with filters. However, they do have them. Electric Mirror just came out with one that has up to 550 apps on their system, on their TV, in their mirror.
Unreal.
So you could literally get up in the morning, go into your master bedroom. You're already warming your towel warmer through Bluetooth technology. Your steam unit could be getting ready to just deliver the steam that you wanted at the perfect temperature. You can turn on the news. You can enter your shower, come out, and then you can check your social media without ever leaving your bathroom. So that's some of the category just in plumbing. We also carry a complete line, and that would also include your bathtubs and your toilets and all of the china, your sinks, your countertops, all of the products that you can imagine that would possibly go into a bathroom, and then leading into all of the jewelry in your home, your door hardware, your cabinet hardware, all of those little decorative appointments. And then going into the kitchen, we carry all of the faucetry as well as the sinks and your water filtration system.
I like that word you said, jewelry.
Well, it is.
Yeah, you recently had an event where you had a couple of very unique individuals who are designers and kind of jewelry designers, but for kitchens and baths and so forth, from the handles and the poles, and they were very interesting.
Yeah.
And you had them doing a nice little seminar with everybody.
Yeah, those three women are amazing. I am personally friends with a couple of them. One of them was the first innovator of what we really call fun hardware in our country. She created a line of cabinet hardware that encompassed figurines of animals and plants and flowers and suns and horses and anchors and you name it.
Gems.
I mean, she had 500 pages in her catalog, and nobody had ever seen anything like it. And she came from the jewelry industry.
Like you think of the fashion industry with designers and so forth, hardware now for kitchens and bathrooms.
I was explaining it's kind of like the crossover between some of these designers who do sunglasses and then they do shoes and perfume. It's like some of these other jewelry designers have now taken on hardware for the home.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you say that because
Addison
the
Weeks
world of
and
plumbing and hardware always followed fashion. We've always been a fashion industry.
But I think the average person doesn't think about it that way.
No.
They think about faucets and so forth and bath fixtures and whatnot, when they walk into their typical Home Depot, and it's just the standard things. And I think a lot of people don't realize that there's so many unique, fascinating choices, colors.
available.
I've always been raised with prior to even going into this industry. My family didn't come from a lot of means, but they always loved beautiful things in our homes. So it would be a treasure for my parents to go out and buy a beautiful switch plate to put on their wall, because they always looked at these little appointments as a finished touch in their home. And they prided themselves on having these little elements that meant so much to them. So, nothing was taken for granted in our home. And they would, like some people might say, to go on vacation, my parents, it was important for them to have their pieces of jewelry be part of their home elements.
I
just grew up with an appreciation of that.
I love that. And that's what I've also, as this podcast, hoping to set a platform to enlighten people that there is so much more available than, the choices that are just given at Big Box and Wayfair and, even these spec homes that are being built in the large neighborhoods. There's just such limited resources when there's really an unlimited amount of resources.
And when I came into the industry, it wasn't unlimited. And yes, the selections and the styles have become limited, but I really do value, working with you, because there's a lot of things out there, but if the things aren't put together just perfectly, then it just is a thing that was meshed on a thing. And you walk into a bathroom and there's a counter, and the only thing that's sitting on the counter is a faucet. And that should be just as important as the only thing that's on the wall is a picture. It should be just as important. And I'm not saying it is to everyone, but people really do have choice. And it could really be something very special.
Right, where somebody actually takes a notice and then you spark an interest in them. And like you said, too, it's like you could walk into a bathroom and there's a counter, and that kind of leads me into another question of how would people get to you without working with an interior designer per se? Because I come in there all the time and it's my go-to, and clients are like, I never even knew this was here. Like how do people get informed about something that's so much more special than
I think
the norm?
I'm only going to speak of Miller's right now, existing name in the South Florida marketplace. We've been a name since, the early 70s. That's a really long time.
Right.
So we are still doing business with our original customers' grandchildren or children or best friend's son-in-law, or like we hear Miller stories every single day, which is just so fun to know that our name has spread. So one way is truly by word of mouth.
Right.
We've always been a company, done the right thing.
You have.
And beyond that, we feel that we offer an environment that is very friend-centric. Everybody at Miller's has longevity.
Agreed.
And we are friends. We socialize. We care about each other. We put each other first. And I just feel that is, no one is perfect, but we absolutely put out there that we're people that not only care about each other, but we care about the people that walk in the door. So our reputation has always been something that's been very important to us. And we constantly are staying in tune with that. And then I think the second way that people hear about us is obviously through whatever advertising that we do. We are in print ad, we do social media, just constantly putting ourselves out there without making an assumption that everyone knows who we are. But we also are very connected to our trade, because our trade is going to be our constant resource for business, and we value that relationship.
But you do have a very large amount of walk-ins that are in trade.
We do.
And that
We
don't come in with a designer or a decorator.
So things get approached a little different.
Especially when you walk into your showroom and there's so much to see. I think the average person needs help.
The average person, the average person needs help. No disrespect to the average person. There is a lot in our showroom, and the very first thing that we do is we let our customers know that walk in the door what we're not. We let them know that we are not interior designers. We have interior designers on our pedestals. They are the people that come in with the vision of the end result. Mm-hmm. They're the ones that can deliver their client's end result before the project even starts. So when we have somebody that walks in the door and actually starts asking us questions, because these are some of the questions that we hear, what do you think? We actually invite them into our visionary home. I want you to visualize that you hate what my house looks like, because it's not about our personal choices. It's very challenging for us when somebody comes in and has not started this process. This is not like buying a sofa. This isn't like buying a kitchen table, where those are things that are in your vision on a regular basis. You're buying a la carte items that need to be put together. And truly the end result is the best end result when you're working with a professional interior designer. So it is a challenge. We do find that consumers that come in without designers will have to make many trips back to the store, because they're constantly researching and second guessing, and oftentimes their purchases are done on hearsay and what somebody else told them. And unfortunately, a lot of end results are not exactly the way they thought they would be because they had nobody to put it together. So I'm not saying I'm not saying it's not. There aren't some people that can't walk in and put it together. There are, but when you're doing a full bathroom renovation or, and a full home, it's very challenging to not be working with a trade professional that can create your end result in the beginning. It just is.
And I always tell my clients too, it's like you can fall in love and appreciate many things, many styles, but it doesn't mean it's going to work in your house. So I feel like somebody could walk into your store and be like, I like this. We got to make sure we use it somewhere. I like this. I got to make sure I use it somewhere, which would be a nightmare to a designer because there's then no cohesive plan.
Right. And I think that our community is so connected to socializing, having votes, having opinions matter, social media, they'll come in the store saying, well, I heard this doesn't work well. And my friend didn't like the way this worked. And they didn't like the way, this hung a towel, and we will just explain the features and benefits and say every part of this is part of your overall picture. And we try to make sure that they know that all of those opinions don't matter. What matters is what they want. And again, oftentimes they know what they want. They just don't know how to put it together. So it is definitely more challenging for an end user to walk in, which is why it is that I don't understand how people can make these levels of purchases on the internet, because it all comes together and oftentimes it's a train wreck.
Well, it's also in the details. There's so many little details. Just do you think of a sink? Does it need an overflow and not need an overflow? And then the drain, do you want a different color of that drain?
The flushometer. Debbie.
That.
But there are so many choices that a person has that I think most people don't realize they have all those choices.
And you know what? Not only do they not realize they have all those choices, they don't even know what they're able to use.
I know.
We've all experienced, even the most professional people have experienced, that selections can be made and then construction starts, and whatever they selected isn't going to be able to be used because they have existing circumstances that they didn't even know about. And when you've got a team of professionals, everyone's going to have each other's back to try to figure it out. When you're working independent, that's such a struggle to try to get to the end result flawlessly.
I have a little quick story that we all experienced maybe like 3 or 4 months ago with a client that Tiffany had. That client has, I think, 3 boys. So there were 4 guys living in the house with the wife, and the husband wanted a urinal. And most people don't put urinals in a home. And that became an interesting, complex little situation that we all had to go through on what's the proper urinal and how to, from an installation standpoint also. And
then all of the problems that come into play with even the product coming in and it not being right or it not being right. Yeah, all of that. It was that really took a team.
Right. Even the plumber had never installed a urinal. There are a lot of different aspects that going to a place like Miller's with a decorator makes a world of a difference.
And I want to just add on to that. If it weren't for the team that your client had, she wouldn't be experiencing the end result of having this working, because at any given time, anybody would have thrown up their hands and said, I guess I just can't have what I want. But it was because,
of the relationship,
your
the
team,
history.
we all did it together. But it would have never happened. It would have never happened if a consumer was walking in without a team. It wouldn't happen.
I agree. And even, when it comes, like you said, to the selections, it's like these bathrooms and all these, even the gorgeous doors. I mean, you have so many options, and they all just do need to have a cohesive plan.
Yeah, and that's the value of a designer.
Do you have a favorite brand or a favorite line? Your go-to?
Because there are so many manufacturers out there that offer specialty items, I tend not to gravitate towards, and there's nothing wrong with them, I tend not to gravitate towards companies that make a little bit of everything. Because they do make a little bit of everything because they're more for the masses.
They're trying to please everyone, right?
Correct. So I do have favorite brands in different categories. And I think that comes into play with working with a showroom, that when people say, I want the most beautiful glass countertops or glass sinks, we're always going to be prone to using Vitroform, who was the original vessel sink company in our country, starting off as Cherry Creek, and she then became Vitroform, and that's a custom glass company. Or if somebody wants something made out of stone, we go back to the originators of the stone sinks that were out there, which is Stone Forest, because that's all they do. So we have a tendency to favor companies that's all they do, and therefore they're the best. In tubs, we love Bain Ultra when it comes to air system tubs, because they originated air system tubs. No one knows it better. So that's kind of where we go in our favorites. But I do believe that every sales consultant at Miller's has a good story about, a good experience that somebody had that they could relate to a customer if they were looking for the best steam unit, or the best medicine cabinet, or the best kitchen sink experience. There's so many of those, but we try to stay in tune with the very specific items, not just come up with a brand name that covers everything. We like to specialize. That's what you
offer. That's the specialty in the service and the boutique atmosphere.
Yeah. I'm going to add one other word, I think, that really falls in what you and at Miller's provide is you're really educators. You're really educating not just the trade or interior decorators who are coming in to learn about the new items, but for just the average person who's walking in the door. Because every time I've been in there, I'm re-educated, or I'm educated on something new that I had no idea about.
And it makes the process exciting.
Yes. And I have to agree with you, because just like your expertise, you are so deeply educated in the world of design and construction, and that's what you do. You can't be the master of every detail in every element of a home, and you rely on your go-tos to be able to fill in those blanks. And I think where we feel that we really light up a customer is, yes, we know so much, but we also know that there's always more to learn. And so, I've been in this industry, don't want to expose this too much, but I've been in this industry almost 4 decades. That's a really long time. And most of my sales team can pretty much say the same thing. 20 years, 30 years. We've been doing this for such a long time that we can actually play off of each other, and every day is a new opportunity to learn, and we continuously re-educate ourselves. Even during these times right now, we're spending so much time going through product knowledge trainings. We're taking any downtime we have to continuously learn what else is out there.
And that's kind of what I was telling Scott, of trying to explain why anyone would want and need a Miller's. It's like, because there is the Home Depots, there is Pro Sources, there's those type of places which you can align with, like, I'm just going to say like a Target, where you can get something nice, it's going to fit in, you can get your job done, or you can go in for an elevated experience. It doesn't necessarily have to cost you more money, but you actually have somebody holding your hand the entire way, like a Saks Fifth Avenue or a Neiman Marcus, where somebody's like, oh, can I help you? Can I show you around? Can we add to that? The earrings, the shoes.
100%. And I think you've even experienced that what we try to bring to you is not only what we know, but how we can show up for you and your clients. I think we've even experienced that, your favorite sales consultant has gone out to a job site and done some cleaning, and like literally got into one of the showers and cleaned something, because it appeared to be that there was a problem with the finish, when at the end of the day, it was just a little bit of construction debris. But he got in there and he cleaned it for you. And, in the world
meetings and early morning meetings.
So and again, you mentioned it's not necessarily comes with an additional cost, but this is an additional
service
benefit. Everybody throws the word service around.
Benefit, you're right.
We walk the walk. We walk the walk. We do this because we value who you are.
So for people who are listening to this podcast, how can they find out more about Miller's?
Well, one of the first ways, obviously, is you can let your fingers do the looking. You can find us at www.eleganthardware.com. When you go into our website, if you want to look at some of the products that we carry, you can go under brands, and every single one of those, I think there's 220 different companies that we represent. They're live links. It'll take you right to the website. So you can certainly see a lot of the products that we carry. You can read a little bit about us. But more than anything, I invite you to come into the showroom and meet us, because we really are a team of people that you will come in being a stranger and you will leave being our friends. We promise you that.
So for people who are listening who aren't living in Florida or are living somewhere else in the world, what's your recommendations for them to find a Miller's in their area of the world or where they're living?
Well, the first thing I would do is don't necessarily go onto the internet and start looking for your first choices. If you're doing a renovation, start asking your local trade professionals. Those that, if you know somebody that did a renovation, find out if they used a designer. Find out who that designer might recommend, or if they're even available. If you're using a licensed contractor, speak to the contractors to some of their resources. So many trades professionals can guide other people through the process of finding the right people. So I value word of mouth, recommendation, real life experiences more than I do anything else, because the internet is a big, broad world of a lot of opinions that might not be relevant to what it is you're looking for.
We love to ask our guests a few final questions. But before you give us an answer to each of these questions, think about them from a standpoint of using the word or incorporating the thought of design in it.
Okay.
So, Tiff?
Favorite restaurant?
There's a restaurant, Mandarin Oriental Hotel down in Miami. It used to be owned by Madonna. I believe it was called the Red Door. I might have it. When it comes to design, it's magnificent. It's every part of it from the beginning to the end is designed beautifully, but the Mandarin is as well. So it follows its magnificent design, its international design all the way into the restaurant. So I think that would be one of my favorites.
What about your favorite hotel?
The Broadmoor in Colorado Springs.
I don't know that one.
Well, you really need to go. So it's tremendous, but you never feel like it's too big. And I think that in the world of design, that's an art, to be able to walk into a large space, but always feel like you're comfortable and surrounded within every room that you go into. The Broadmoor is extremely spacious. The rooms are comfortable and amazingly well appointed. And in regard to just the design element or dealing in the construction element, their service is a 5-star service. And the surrounding area, it brings topography into your room. It's just one of the most magnificent scenic places that you can see in Colorado Springs. So that would be, it would be the Broadmoor. It would be the Broadmoor. Yeah.
Let's check that
great
out.
Great place to visit. Yeah.
And then lastly, like a favorite coffee table book?
So, Scott, you got me stumped on the design aspect of the coffee table book.
And it could just be even a hobby.
I appreciate that. So it actually is about my mother. My mother started Miller's, and she was, she was my mom, and then she became my business partner, and then she became my best friend. And so there was a book that I actually gave my mother. We shared birthdays. They were a day apart. So we shared, they were a day apart. I do believe I was born on her birthday, but she was so selfless that she made sure that I got my own day. But there was a book that I gave her called Daughters and Mothers. It was written by Lauren Cowan and Jane Wexler. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful coffee table book that is wonderful stories of relationships between mothers and daughters. And everyone in my life knows what my relationship was like with my mother. So after my mother passed, it became my book. And it is on my coffee table. And
that's so special.
I bring it back to, when I went into Miller's with my mother, the most amazing opportunity I had was to be able to see my mother as such a dynamic businesswoman. So that's my tabletop book. It's not about design, but I
love it.
Miller's.
I love it. And they are special. And that's what they're supposed to be there, is to bring conversation. And then you get to say that beautiful story.
Yes.
Well, Debbie, we
Very
really
much so.
appreciate your time and joining us on the iDesign Lab.
Thank you so much for having me and allowing me to share my story and talk about Miller's Elegant Hardware, because it's my home away from home.
This is Tiffany Woolley, host of the iDesign Lab podcast, along with my husband, Scott, and our wonderful guest today, Debbie Miller, hoping you will join us again in the iDesign Lab as we continue to explore the fabulous world of design.
iDesign Labs podcast is an SW Group production in association with the Scott Woolley Entertainment Company and TW Interiors. To learn more about iDesign Lab or TW Interiors, please visit twstyle.com.